Welcome to C Programming Tutorials. This is a production of YouTube channel Learnorama and the Facebook page Awesome C Programming Tutorials in High Def. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I would recommend that you do so, and if you haven't become the fan of the page, I would recommend that you do so as well. In this tutorial, we are learning about how to pass arrays as parameters to a function. And actually this is the part 4 of this tutorial. If you haven't watched the first 3 parts, I would recommend that you do so. The link to the first part should be on the screen at this point. And right now we have basically almost completed the implementation of this function here, which basically computes the sum of all these number of days here in the individual months, and returns it, and it's supposed to return it back. We haven't gone to that point yet. And I had drawn a picture in the previous tutorial which I lost, so I basically drew it right here in Paint so that I don't keep on losing it again and again. So let's see. So this is what it is. Whoops. This is what is represented. This is the representation of this array here, days, which was declared right here in our in this function, and this has 12 elements starting from 0 to 11, indexed from 0 to 11. And this is the reason it has 12 elements, we know, is because it is being it's getting its values from n days, this array itself, which has been declared as element with array with 12 elements. Okay, and then there is this this variable that we have declared as sum, which is supposed to store the sum of all those number of days, or all the elements in this array, days. Okay, and this array has hard-coded value of 31, 28, 31, 30, and then 31 at the end, and so on. So as this thing executes, as this loop executes, it runs, it changes the value of index from 0 to all the way to 12, 1 less than 12, which is 11, and it basically indexes into this array to access all those elements of this array one by one. So when the index value would be 0, it will be accessing this element. When the index value would be 1, it will be accessing this element, and so on. And this statement is the same as let me write this statement right here. Sum is equal to sum plus days of index. Okay, this is the same statement as this, and what it says is basically add the current value of sum to this element, which is basically indexed by this variable index, okay, for different values of index, and keep adding them and then storing them back into the sum so that it can be used for the next iteration of this for loop. Okay, so one important thing that we have done is basically we have initialized sum to 0. This is critically important. Otherwise, first time when this statement will be executed, the value of sum is not guaranteed to be 0, okay, in the beginning. And when this will be executed, it may have any garbage value, very big value as well, 45,695. Okay, excuse me. And this is what it's going to use to start with this computation. Obviously, we are going to be way off if we did that. So it is critically important that we basically store that we basically change the value here to 0. Let me erase this. Okay, otherwise it will have some garbage value. Okay, so that's what we did here. And as this program, or as this function executes and this loop executes, it does this again and again. So let's start. So first time the value of index would be 0. Okay, the value of index would be 0, and we will be accessing this element here, 31, and the value of sum is 0. So 0 plus 31, the answer is 31, and this gets stored into sum, back into sum. So the value of sum becomes 31 here. Okay, and then this loop executes again by changing the value of index by incrementing it by 1, which means the value of index will be 1. So next time we will be accessing this element. So the value of days of 2 is 28, and then the current value of sum is 31, and we'll add them together. The result would be 59, and that gets stored into sum, back into sum. So the value of sum becomes 59 after that. And then next time when this will be executed, we will have 59 plus 31, because the index value of index would be 2. So the value of days of 2 is the second element, or the third element of days array, 31, and that will basically give us 90. So we basically store 90 here, and so on. And hopefully after running this through for 12 iterations, 12 times, we should have 365, because there are 365 days in a year, right? Unless there is something wrong in our program here, or or people think that from day one they are wrong, that there are 365 days in a year, which obviously is not true. Anyway, so one important thing that's missing here is basically to return this value back. We have computed all this value, we have to return it back to the caller by using return statement. And we learned that if the type of the return value is anything other than void, we have to have a return statement in there, so that and it has to have a type that it returns, a variable that has the same type as the return type right here. Or it could be expression also. If you want, you could basically return sum multiplied by 2. This is perfectly okay, but obviously it doesn't make sense in what we are trying to do here. But this is a perfectly okay program to do that. You can return an expression as long as the type of the result of this expression is the same as the type of the function. And then this will be stored when this will be called here. The value returned will be stored into this variable n days in year, and then we'll be storing this printing this value out in this message. So let's try it out. How do you run this program? Press F9, and then I have it already running here. So F9, F9, and here we go. Look at that. Ta-da! The number of days in a year is 365. So we have verified everybody in the world is correct that there are 365 days in a year. Cool, right? So this concludes, well, see, the thing is that, let's see if we can real quick cover this thing. This is one way of passing arrays. Another way of passing arrays is basically pointers, just like we did before. If you define a pointer like this, you basically are saying that you want the address of the memory location here. And once you get the address of the memory location, you could basically manipulate that memory location or any other location after that. So what you get here is actually, let's see, what you get here is actually a pointer. Okay, and this pointer is supposed to be pointing to an array of integers, this one, n days. Okay, n days. The name of the pointer is going to be days now, because the days is basically a pointer variable. Okay, and it is going to be pointed to by n days here. Okay, and this n days has all those elements right here, right? And then we could basically, using this pointer, we could basically access this element, and then this element, and this element, and this element, and this element, and so on. Okay, and we learned in our previous tutorial that you could use pointers like this also, just like you can treat pointers just like an array. Okay, and this particular program this way will work just as good as the previous one. Okay, when you pass this n days, what is it going to do? Would the call look any different? No, because n days actually is the name of this array. And when I was talking about the arrays, I told you guys that basically, guys and girls, basically the n days actually represents the name of the array represents the address itself. So we are actually passing the address right here. So this is a perfectly okay call. I will conclude this tutorial right here. Please keep watching the tutorials. Thank you so much.